Good evening, it's 6:02 on Monday, October 31st, 2016. Welcome and thank you for joining us tonight for the English edition of Aura News, where we bring you today's top stories translated into English every weeknight. The Prime Minister's recent statement regarding a socialist movement for integration's move towards another coalition with the Democratic Party was not well received by the General Secretary of the Socialist Movement for Integration. The General Secretary did not comment on the statement, but rather asked that the government's attention remain on the country's economy and drug problems. I am not here to deal with jokes. The most important thing is that the majority, and specifically the government, focus on fulfilling its obligations and reforms. I want to emphasize that the successful realization of the electoral reform is very important. It is a priority from which we cannot escape. We should also be focused on the fight against drug trafficking, the SMI Secretary declared. Regarding the waste law, the SMI Secretary said, "We will seriously evaluate the issue, respecting the public interest and the country's interest." He stated that constructive proposals in regards to the electoral reform were made in the ad hoc commission. Democratic Party Chairman Basha held a meeting with DP structures in Met, where he listened to citizens' concerns. The DP chairman reiterated his accusations against the Prime Minister, accusing him of allowing cannabis cultivation for his own benefit. Furthermore, Mr. Basha declared that women and young people are working on cannabis plantations under the state police director's protection. They allowed criminals in Parliament, making them MPs, mayors, directors of public administration, chiefs of police departments. All Albania has been planted with drugs. Covering Albania with drugs is Edi Rama's project. He did not keep any of his promises, but instead he abandoned them from the first day he came into power. He did not even make an effort to keep his promises. Now that his mandate is coming to an end, we are clear of his intentions. He only aimed to keep the budget for himself and divide it with his friends. He planned to allow crime and give citizens only a few alternatives: poverty, emigration, imprisonment, or work on drug plantations, declared the DP chairman. He added that with Edi Rama in power, the situation is only worsening. Mr. Basha declared that the Prime Minister is trying to buy votes with drug money. The Democratic Party chairman articulated the opposition's conditions, saying, "There are two conditions for the opposition: the implementation of the decriminalization law and free and honest elections," concluded Mr. Basha. Prime Minister Edi Rama, together with the Minister of Tourism, the Minister of Education, and the Minister of Health, visited Tropoja today, where they held several meetings. They met with Tropoja's mayor, where the Prime Minister promised €4 million in funding to develop Tropoja. According to the Prime Minister, the funds will be used for four main projects: the city entrance, city infrastructure, constructing the stadium ring road, and for constructing the high school. The Prime Minister made the promise as he presented the urban plan for the northern city. The Prime Minister also promised funds for Valbona's water supply. During his visit in Tropoja, the Prime Minister also held meetings with teachers of the area and also with Socialist Party groups. The Minister of Justice held a meeting today with the European Council's reporters, Mr. Andrei Hunko and Mr. Joseph O'Reilly. Recent developments to the judicial reform and property issues were discussed. The EC reporters asked for information about the judicial reform and its implementation. The minister spoke of the reform being deep and unique and based on concrete needs of Albania. The Minister of Justice emphasized the contribution of all parties, especially of the foreign expertise in regards to the reform. "We have taken an important political step as the reform was consensually approved. Currently, we are at the implementation phase of the new legislation, which consists of adopting 40 laws. 7 laws are of great priority, and the most important one is the vetting law. The implementation of the reform begins with this law," the minister said. The The property issue and the current compensation situation was then discussed with the EC reporters. Today, we have a property law, which I think should have been implemented earlier, many years ago. The Property Management Agency is making relevant reviews of the citizens' applications. Property evaluations are based in legal criterion and solutions are being sought after, added the minister. The EC reporters and the Minister of Justice agreed that citizens want a rapid solution over the property issues and that everyone is tired of continuous delays to solving the property issues. The Parliamentary Economic Commission discussed the bills on tax procedures today. Members of the commission debated over imposing fines against business owners who fail to pay their income tax on time. The former Minister of Finance and the chairman of the Economic Commission both considered the fine to be unfair. The article describes the fine as an additional 10% of the amount of taxes the business owner has to pay. The Vice Minister of Finance argued that the fine has already been reduced from 15% to 10%. The opposition also rejected the article that decrees a fine for business owners who do not pay for their employees' insurance. The opposition feels the predicted penalties in the articles are quite a high cost. The Parliamentary Economic Commission adopted the majority of the bill's articles, and the remaining articles will be reviewed. The Parliamentary Inquiry Commission on Phone Tapping held a meeting today to discuss the Ministry of Interior's use of the IMSI catcher equipment. The chairman of the commission declared that the equipment entered Albania in defiance of the Constitution, and its use for tapping the phones of specific institutions is a crime which has seriously violated national security. However, the Socialist Party MPs have asked the chairman of the commission to be careful because there are only suspicions and nothing has been proved. The institution leaders may have been tapped. Alterations may have been made to the equipment. The equipment was moved without the prosecution's order. The equipment has been used illegally. Phone tapping is a violation of the Constitution. The authorities have committed a crime, declared the Democrat MP and the chairman of the commission. In response, the Socialist MPs asked the Democrat members to take their evidence to the prosecution as an investigation has already been started. The Socialist MPs asked the Democratic Party not to politicize the case. The commission chairman explains the action plan for concluding its work in February of 2017. The Parliamentary Law Commission discussed changes to the Railway Code today with the intention to give private companies the right to use the railway lines for transporting goods and passengers. The chairman of the Law Commission considers the initiatives to be very important and criticized the Ministry of Transport for low political representation of the initiatives. The chairman of the commission also argued that citizens need to have further explanation of the initiatives. The proposed changes to the new railway code give private companies the right to use railway lines for a fee determined by the state. Also, the new railway code forecasts establishing an authority, licensed according to European standards, which will deal with railway security, investigate accident cases, study the railway line conditions, and make recommendations to the government. That's all for our English edition this evening. Please join us again Monday through Saturday at 6 p.m. for your local news in English. My name is Mari, and on behalf of Aura News, thank you and good night.